Shalom, good afternoon from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallin, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in the United States of God of Israel, bless America, in New York State, 1981, and now celebrating our 42nd year. Today is Monday, May 15, 2020. Wait a minute, Monday, May 15, 2023 in the Gregorian calendar. How time flies, I was about to say 2022. Well, like in the Casablanca, the movie, it's still the same old story. The fight for love and glory, which no one can deny as time goes by, 22, 23, what's the difference? And in the Hebrew calendar, it is the 24th day of the second Israelite Hebrew month of ER, year 5783. Welcome to episode 17 of our monthly Root and Branch Association Lost Tribes Fellowship seminars. The chairman of the fellowship is Mr. Yair Davidiy, who is also chair of the seminars, and that his primary identification for many, many years, the founder of Brit-Am Hebrew Identity. Is it Hebrew Identity now or Hebrew Nations Yair?
Hebrew awareness. Hebrew awareness.
Brit-Am Hebrew Awareness, the author of numerous books. Here's one of them. I have some of them. Lost Israelite Identity. Yair is a prolific author and researcher and of many, many essays, which you can read by subscribing to his email list. Just phenomenal output. I'm very slow. And Yair is very quick, and it's all fascinating. And we want to welcome the panelists for today's program with us in our Zoom studio, who later on will be asking questions and making comments when we move to gallery view. Ladies first, we have Mrs. Kitty Corbett of South Carolina. And then we have, and I'll try to get this in alphabetical order, we have Mr. John Buzel of Santa Vittoria, it's a long name, Santa Vittoria del Palma, I might have gotten that wrong, in Brazil, and Mr. Guy Smith of Miami, Florida, and Mr. Nelson Thal of Toronto, Canada, joining us today. Welcome to everybody. We usually begin with a musical introduction, and we're going to go to that right now. It's Nimrod with words superimposed by Winston Churchill. Remember, 1940, 83 years ago now, the Germans are invading the lowlands and France and kicking the CRAP out of the British and the French in 6 weeks. It's terrible. So those words are as relevant now as they were then, as we're walking through the bullets all over the world. See, not much has changed. So let's go to that, and then we will begin the program. Let me go to share screen. Share sound. That's very important. Share. Okay. Here it is. Here it is. Close that. Open this. Let's see. And here we go.
We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it were subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until in God's good time, the new world with all its power and might steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old. I told the House 2 months ago that whereas in France our fighter aircraft were wont to inflict a loss of 2 or 3 to 1 upon the Germans, the gratitude of every home in our island, in our empire, and indeed throughout the world, except in the abodes of the guilty, goes out to the British airmen who, undaunted by odds, unwearied in their constant challenge and mortal danger, are turning the tide of the world war by their prowess and by their devotion. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. All our hearts go out to the fighter pilots, whose brilliant actions we see with our own eyes day after day. But we must never forget that all the time, night after night, month after month, our bomber squadrons travel far into Germany, find their targets in the darkness by the highest navigational skill, aim their attacks, often under the heaviest fire, often with serious loss, with deliberate careful discrimination, and inflict shattering blows upon the whole of the technical and war-making structure of the Nazi power.
That was Nimrod with immortal words of Sir Winston Churchill. And now, before I hand over the mic to our chair, my rainmaking bit with which we begin and end each program, please support the work of Yair Davidiy, Brit-Am and Hebrew Awareness. There are many ways you can do that. You can subscribe to his YouTube and other channels. You can do that financially. You'll see all the links below. Buy his books. And for myself, please support yours truly's work to build our Hebrew Bible-based Fifth Israelite Monarchy Broadcasting Network from Jerusalem, Israel, to honor the God, land, Torah, and people of Israel and all humanity. Regarding the Fifth Israelite Monarchy, please see the biblical book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 44. Click on the links below. And now, without further ado, I hand over the mic to our chair, Yair Davidiy. Yair, it's all yours.
Shalom. So today we're going to discuss the book of Micah. Micah is a short book. It's a book of the Bible. It's one of the minor prophets, one of the 12 minor prophets. They're called the minor prophets because they are the size of their book is smaller than those of the larger prophets. Not because they're relatively less important than the major prophets. And Malachi is the last book of the 12 minor prophets. The term name Malachi means messenger, the same as Hebrew word for angel, Malach, messenger, angel. The prophet Malachi was describing a situation in his own times, but he extrapolates from that to the end times, what will happen in the end times. In the Hebrew Bible, the Book of Malachi is divided into 3 chapters, so too in the Greek Septuagint, 3 chapters, but in the Latin Vulgate is in 4 chapters. So if your English translations will probably have 4 chapters, they may only have 3. There isn't much difference, but be aware of that in case the references that we give don't exactly coincide with what you have. You shouldn't have any problems. Most English translations follow the Vulgate, and they divide the book into 4 chapters, and that's what we're working with. And we have followed this example in our commentary, and for the sake of convenience, the Book of Malachi speaks of future troubles and wars with Edom. And he also warns that if the religious leaders of our time do not listen to God Almighty, they will be punished. He also speaks of Levi. Levi represents the religious Jews, many of whom came from the tribe of Levi, or they were descendants of David from the tribe of Judah. And he goes on, his message, even though he directs his message to Judah, people from Judah, he refers to the lost 10 tribes, speaks of the lost 10 tribes. And it has a lot of, the message overall is pertinent to the lost 10 tribes. Lost 10 tribes are the major section of the Israelite nation. You had the 2 sections of the Israelite nation. You had Judah, that was comprised of the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Incidentally, I'll be also taking questions. And if you have bring up any subject which is of interest, please take a note of it and ask me about it, because that's what we're here for, to teach and to clarify the matters. If you don't ask us, we don't know. We don't know what we should answer. So this is what the book of Malachi, the first chapter, he says that our intellectuals are betrayers. There's nothing new under the sun. He says that the intellectuals of Israel are betrayers. And he is speaking to both Judah and to Joseph. As we said, the tribes of Israel were divided into 2 sections, Judah and Israel. This northern section of Israel comprised 10 tribes. It was taken away by the Assyrians, and they were resettled in areas of the Assyrian Empire, lost consciousness, awareness of their ancestry, but eventually they were pushed out or moved out to different areas, to the north, to the west, and in the end they all converged, all came together in Western Europe, and from there they populated other areas of the earth, such as North America, Australia, New Zealand, and other places. That is what happened. And the Bible speaks of them. The lost 10 tribes lost consciousness of their ancestry, they forgot who they were, but in the future they will be reminded of it, they will come back and they will renew the covenant, and it's important that they know who they are in our time, and that this be made known unto us. And this is what we have. We should also mention that, just to put things in a historical context, conventionally, the 10 tribes were taken away about the last ones were taken away 720 BCE. It was actually somewhat later than that, according to our understanding, but we go according to what you see in the encyclopedias and what you see on the internet and Wikipedia and so on. They'll tell you it was about 720 BCE. Then, also according to what they'll tell you is about 580 BCE, that Judah was also taken into exile, but this time by the Babylonians. So first the 10 tribes are taken into exile by the Assyrians, taken away, lost consciousness of their ancestry, disappeared, but somewhat later, they all moved to the west, whereas Judah remained. That is Judah, the tribes of the kingdom of Judah, Benjamin and Levi, plus a minority representatives of all the other tribes from the kingdom of Judah. They too were taken away by the Assyrians, by the Babylonians, to Babylon. The empire of Babylon, after 70 years, they were allowed to come back by Cyrus, the king of Persia, had conquered Babylon. He allowed the Jews to come back, and they began to come back, and they set up their own kingdom, their own little kingdom, or principality, known as Judea, in conventional terms. And they began to rebuild the temple, to rebuild the city of Jerusalem, and they also began to rehabilitate their religious structure and their religious life, and they set up what's known as the Great Assembly. The Great Assembly comprised 120 members. 120 members. They comprise both prophets and sages. They were together. There was overlapping. It represents the overlapping of the period of the prophecy and the period of the sages. So both prophets and sages were in this assembly. Malachi was also a member of it. And it had 120 members, and they said that they established a lot of principles, a lot of guiding boundaries and enactments concerning the Jewish religion. Much of Judaism was formulated in that time. And this is what there was. When the members of the Great Assembly numbered 120 at the beginning, when they began to die away, pass away or retire, they allowed the numbers to diminish. They allowed the number of members to diminish until it reached 70, and at which stage it was the same as a regular Sanhedrin, as commanded by the Bible, so that such a body, legislative body, should exist. And here and there, Malachi in his book refers to it. He also tells us, and now at present we're just going to run through the book, give a very brief run through headlines from the book, then we'll come back and go into the verses and a few more matters in some detail. It mentions that unnecessary divorce is criticized. A person should not divorce his wife lightly unless he really has to. We also to be faithful to ourselves and to our families. It also says the Almighty will send his messenger, that is the Messiah, son of Joseph, the future head of the 10 tribes, and he will begin to lead the 10 tribes back and help them and guide them and help all of Judah as well, help all of Israel. And Malachi refers to this, and he also calls upon the Israelites to repent and to return. In the future, the children of Israel will have it made known to them which tribe each and every one of them belongs to. And so too, the Israelites are called upon to give tithes. Each one should give a tenth of his income to some cause representing the will of God. By not giving tithes, we have robbed God. See Malachi 3 verse 8 to 9. And we are called upon to test the Almighty and begin to tithe, and we will see great returns from it. Through giving tithes, our prosperity will recover and grow. And the pathway to repentance itself involves the giving of tithes. And then he also speaks of the future appearance of Elijah and our redemption. Our redemption requires, the redemption of the Israelites requires a recognition by the lost Israelites, by the 10 tribes, to recognize their Hebrew ancestry. That is one of the reasons why we call our movement Brit-Am, Hebrew ancestry. Hebrew ancestry, this is needed. It's needed that this, at least it's needed in our time, in the end times, that we recognize our Hebrew ancestry, and that is the beginning. That is the first step we have to take, and we have to begin along this path, and when we take this path, God will come to help us. Return to me and I will return to you. That's also part of the message of Malachi.